Aaron, did she put the questions to rest about how she will proceed, her department will proceed with the results of this investigation?
Well, look, I think she probably did about as well as she could have. She was very forthcoming, saying repeatedly that she believed and acknowledged that this cast a shadow over the investigation. She even eventually, after plenty of prodding by my colleague Jonathan Capehart, admitted that this is not something she would do again. She tried to be very forthcoming, and I think she's very good at that, in fact. But the fact is that she's also dealing with a very bad situation, a situation that is partly of her making, and there's only so much she can do to put to rest the suspicions that are going to be arising about this situation. Those suspicions, I suspect, for people who are predisposed not to trust the Clintons are going to remain. The question is how much bigger that becomes and whether independents also continue to be suspicious about this thing. I think she handled it very well, but I think that she made a big mistake, which she basically acknowledged that she's going to have to spend a lot of time trying to climb out from underneath.
Yeah, David, Brett Baer describes it as akin to a prosecutor having a closed-door meeting with a judge during the middle of a trial or an investigation. Pretty good parallel there. And you have to wonder, I mean, these are busy people. I mean, well, maybe not Bill Clinton so much, but, this is the Attorney General of the United States. She has time to sit there in her private plane for 30 minutes and just kind of chew the fat with the former president?
Look, to play devil's advocate, you can imagine the pressure that she probably felt to take a meeting with a former president who appointed her, not excusing the fact that what she did. I think, she knows what she did was wrong. She basically came out and said that. But the pressure when the former president, any former president, asks you to have a conversation, it's tougher in the moment, I think. The other point I would like to make is the political context of this. I'm going to be fascinated to hear what Hillary Clinton says about this. She's going to get asked about it. She doesn't have any public events for the next couple of days. She ultimately will be asked about it. And does she say, my husband was wrong, my husband was out of line, he shouldn't be, just the appearance creates problems? Or will she say, I had nothing to do with it, I can't control Bill, you're going to have to ask the president? I think that answer is going to be fascinating for us to watch, and she's going to have to answer for it. So
she is going to, Aaron, accept the FBI's recommendation in this case. She says that decision had already been made. It had nothing to do with this, previously unreported meeting with Bill Clinton. I guess we can only take the Attorney General at her word on that.
Yeah, she basically said that the only reason they announced this part of the process, they generally don't discuss anything having to do with the investigation. The only reason she says that they decided to announce that she would be accepting whatever the recommendations are was because of the situation that was created by this meeting. I think David also makes a really interesting point here. I talked about how Attorney General Lynch seemed pretty forthcoming, seemed pretty genuine in this response. That kind of ups the pressure on Hillary Clinton to match that level of candor. And frankly, when these kinds of situations have come up in the past, that hasn't always been her M.O. She's kind of pretended like it's not really a big issue. She's tried to kind of wish it away a little bit. Will she also say, like Loretta Lynch did, that maybe this meeting wasn't a very good idea? Will she say that her husband shouldn't have done that? It's hard to see her doing that, but I think that what Loretta Lynch just did will put pressure on her to address it in that way, and whether or not she does that, I think is very much an open question.
Maybe she'll again say it was part of a vast right-wing conspiracy. You never know. All right, Aaron Blake from the Washington Post, David Katney, U.S. News. Thank you both.